Hey, it's Winnie. Are you up? I can't sleep, and I need to get this one thing off my mind. Thanks for listening. I want to start out by saying that I wasn't always scared of the New York City subway system. There was a time when I considered it my pathway to the world. This was before random people were setting passengers on fire, before victims were left to burn while passersby filmed them, before cops paced back and forth staring into the open train doors at the spectacle, watching man-made fibers act like 1,000 wicks, burning into flesh, keeping the flame bright and hot. A native Queens girl, I began taking the subway to school in high school and quickly realized that it was the best $1.25 a girl could spend. In under an hour, I could be at Tech Billiards playing pool or resting in the Central Park Meadow. Sometimes I'd ride the subway train to the end of the line just to see what was there, only to take the train the opposite direction back the way I came. As I got older and my mastery of the subway and its destinations grew, I knew that taking the 7 train could get me from the west side to the east side of 42nd Street just as easily as the shuttle. And that sometimes sitting in the first 4 cars was the only way to get to an exit at some downtown stations. I took the train home after nights of drinking, passing out, my head lolling close to the shoulders of other tired riders. My internal clock would wake me up seconds before the doors would open to my stop. On Halloween, the train platforms became costume runways, and we'd strut on them on our way to parties and parades. Doing the janky math, I have easily spent over 5,000 hours riding the subway. I guess the number is closer to 10,000, but like I said, my math is janky. A lot of the time I spent riding the subway was just reading the signs. Dr. Jonathan Zizmore acne ads, Audrey Cohen College, practicing my Spanish, no se apoya contra la puerta, and often staring at people's faces. I looked at young faces, older faces. I wondered about their lives and where they were going. I looked intently at people's foreheads, noses, chins, ears, but never the eyes. Never the eyes directly. Every New Yorker knows that eye contact could get you a bag full of crazy or killed. But New Yorkers are used to being indirectly looked at, admired, wondered about. And so I stared at the structure of faces, and I started to see a pattern. It seemed like there were a limited number of faces in the city, and people of all different backgrounds were just taking turns wearing them. I'd see a Latino man and then see his exact face, the nose, the round eyes, the dimple on a black kid. I'd see the face of a pretty Mediterranean girl and then spot the same face on an older Caribbean woman. The features were identical, only the ethnicity had changed. I wondered if anyone noticed this as I had. I dreamed of creating a photo series that could start with a portrait of a face prototype, followed by portraits of all the racial variations of that same face. I imagine this would be featured at the MoMA or the Whitney. But this was before cell phones with cameras, and I am not a photographer, so I never did anything with it. But it turns out I wasn't the only one looking at faces. Francois Brunel is a photographer and author based in Montreal, Canada. He has traveled to over 30 cities globally to amass a collection of more than 250 pairs of people, doppelgangers, for a project he calls I Am Not a Lookalike. He hopes his work encourages an open mind about human connection. His art has inspired a scientific study by the Leukemia Research Institute in Barcelona, showing that true lookalikes, doppelgangers, share significantly similar genotypes and DNA sequences comparable to identical twins, despite them being unrelated. The term doppelganger comes from the German word for double walker or double goer, referring to a supernatural duplicate of a living person. Traditional lore historically cast them as paranormal entities and omens of misfortune. Sigmund Freud wrote that while the doppelganger begins as a comforting assurance of immortality, it eventually transforms into a terrifying harbinger of death. In psychiatry, the hallucination of seeing one's own body from a distance is associated with conditions like epilepsy and schizophrenia. There is a lot of untreated mental illness roaming the subway. The city has closed mental health facilities in every borough, leaving reality and hallucination to blur underground for those seeking refuge there. When I visit New York City now from my tri-state suburb, I drive. On my way to where I'm going, I look at identical cars, not identical faces. I miss the faces, but I feel safer. Like, the odds of me getting into a car crash are way less than getting set on fire while riding the train. But, as I said, my math is janky. So, what do you think? Does that make sense, or am I out here alone in this? Tell me.